Well, next we are going to talk about another very important topic that we often have as in commerce and even in management. We have this as loan statement, which is often made by the banks. So I have a very simple example over here with me. So I will have write the amount of loan. Let me just correct the spelling. The amount of loan is nothing but, let me just space the column as well so that you can actually see and write things accordingly. So the amount of loan is around say 2 lakh. We have years, the number of years for which the particular loan has been taken. So let me take it as 5. I can take it any, it can be 3, 4, 5, 6, or 10 also. Let me take it as 10 just as an example. Then we have another concept, very important concept, which will actually tell the number of installments that we have to give in all these 10 years. We have a concept called as periodicity. In this case, I take it as 4. That means the installments will be given on quarterly basis. So we divide each year into 3 months. All right. Then we have the rate. Now, this particular interest rate is given as the annual interest rate. So I'll write it like that. Annual interest rate is given as, let me take as 14%. It could be any. It could be any. Normally, the interest rate is subject to the macroeconomic factors which are prevailing in the market. So, depending on that, we calculate the rate of interest that has to be used by the bank. Then I have a very important field which I have to calculate for going further for the completion of my loan statement. So next is amount of installments which I have to actually give on regular basis. That is, in this case, we are giving on annual quarterly basis. So the amount of installment will be calculated with the help of a function in Excel that is by the name PMT. Now, one thing I want to say that in the syllabus they haven't mentioned any syllabus, any function that we have to use specifically. So that means even we can calculate the installment amount without function as well, right? But in this case, since we know the function and we can calculate that, so we'll prefer to use the function PMT. So I say equal to, I will write minus sign because that is the each installment which will be subtracted from the total amount. So I start with the minus sign in the beginning. So I say minus P and T, and the moment I say P and T, the format of this function will come where the first component which I have to write over here is the rate, which in this case is 14%. But please remember, this is the rate that we have to give and use on quarterly basis. So we say that 14% divided by the periodicity, which is 4. I can also write, let me write the cell address, it's easier to use them then. So I say B4 divided by B3. Then I have the total number of installments which I have to give, which will be calculated by multiplying the years by the periodicity. So I simply say B2 multiplied by B3 and then comma. And then the next argument which I have to give over here is the present value, which is nothing but the total amount which I've taken from the bank, which is your 2 lakh. Let me write B1 over here and then I'll close the bracket. And I have this amount over here with me as 9,365.46 dollars. Now, dollar sign is coming. I can easily remove that, but I don't want to remove it right now, so I will let it be like that. Now, coming to the statement, loan statement which I have to make and generate for individual sourcing. I will start first with the first column as the number of installments, which this we also know from the number of years that the person has for which the person has taken the loan multiplied by the total periodicity that we have mentioned over here, right? So let me just so we have total number of installments starting with 1, 2, and so on. So let I can write that also. The next column I'm going to write as the opening balance. Right now, opening balance is nothing but your the amount of loan that you've taken from the bank. So this will be nothing but equal to B1. Then the next heading will come out as the interest. Let me just bold this so that you guys can easily see that. Right? I hope it's pretty visible now. Yes. So the next heading which I have to take after opening balance is for the interest that has to be calculated that a person will give on that particular loan. The interest will be basically calculated by multiplying the amount of installment, which is not the amount of installment, but the loan amount that the person has taken, which is the B1. And since I've written B1 in B8, I will simply write this as B8. B8 multiplied by the rate, which is your 14%, and I have to also divide this particular rate with the periodicity. So what I'll do in this case, I will be fixing the columns used for the annual interest rate and the periodicity. So I will simply multiply the opening balance with the, let me just write that. So I say dollar, I say B4. B4 is your annual interest rate. So I say dollar B, then again dollar sign, and then 4 divided by again dollar sign B, dollar sign, and 3. Alright. So let's see what we get. So we get 7,000 as the interest rate coming for this particular loan amount. Then we have the installment, which we have already calculated through that PNP function, if you remember. So I will simply write this as equal to B5, and I'm going to fix this because I'm going to because installment will remain same, right? At least for the number of times as we have to give to the particular company. So we'll simply say dollar B and dollar 5. This particular thing we have got over here. Let me just correct the spelling for installment. So we have this over here. So the next heading which I have to calculate is for the closing balance, which is another very important parameter in case of loan. So the closing balance will be nothing but your, we have to basically subtract the amount from the opening balance. So we simply say opening balance, which is B8 plus the interest, which is C8, and minus the your installment, which you have to take from here. So I will simply say B8 plus C8 and minus B8. And I'll say enter. Right. So I got this particular thing over here. And next, for the next installment, for the next, the installment, I will have to actually use this particular closing balance as the opening balance, because certainly the opening balance will never remain same as 2 lakh. It will tend to change with the first installment. So I will simply say that as E8, right? So what I'll do, I will simply drag these two columns, these three columns over here, and then I'm going to drag the four columns together just to see the overall table which I get for the installments. Oh, there's so many reds. That means they are in negative number. That means I must have got the zero number somewhere in the beginning. Let me just check that. Okay, so if you see very clearly, our this is the line where we are getting zero balance. That means on this at this particular installment, we have paid our own loan in the company. So let me just check the installment that is coming at that position. So let me just drag this as well, and let me check what I get. All these numbers which are coming in red, they are basically negative numbers, and they are basically the numbers which are coming since I'm doing calculation over here. But they don't have any relevance. Reason being, I'm already done with my loan payment on at the 40th installment. You can see that, right? And this 40th installment you can also calculate by multiplying, so you can see that. So if I calculate the number of installments over here as well, this is nothing but 10 multiplied by 4, that is 40. There's an error. Let me just correct that. That's equal to 10 multiplied by 4 as 40. That means overall for the 2 lakh loan for 10 years with the 4-year periodicity and 14% interest rate, I have to actually give 40 installments in the bank. Right, and this also I've got in this particular table as well with the heading as number of installment, opening balance, interest, installment, and closing balance. Alright. So we can very clearly see that with each installment, our amount is going down and it is decreasing, and we are ultimately getting zero loan at the 40th installment. So that was all for the loan statement, which you will see that often banks make and they generate for each individual person who has taken up the loan. All right. I repeat one more time in your syllabus, they haven't mentioned the use of specific finance function, but certainly when we are making loan statements, it's always better to use a function because that will speed up our task and give the result very fast. So that's all for the loan statement.